Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the first Flea Market Fantasy of 2020. This is number 19, and this is your co-host, Mike-EL. And as always, I'm joined by...
Mike-DELL of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
Yes, and for the second week in a row, we do have a guest co-host in the form of G.I. Jolie, but she hasn't read the issue, so she's kind of just going to consult, we could say, right?
Yeah. I'm going to make sure all of the points are correct.
I appreciate that. Thanks for sitting in, Jolie.
You're welcome.
It's the spirit of Christmas. All right. So this issue, Mike-El, it's my pick. It's the first time I've had a pick in many weeks.
Yeah, we like to keep it that way, right?
As we had guessed. So thankfully, we're back with something good.
Okay.
We're going back. We're going back to 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Power Man and Iron Fist, number 61.
That's right.
Now,
and for those that don't know, Power Man is Luke Cage, just in case, you know.
Yes. Yeah, Luke Cage. Now, Jolie, do you have any history with Power Man and or Iron Fist?
No. Do I have any history? Ugh.
Well, I know you like the Luke Cage Netflix show. I remember that, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were going to say, like, did we date? No history. Yeah, I watched the shows. They're Power Man / Luke Cage was better than Iron Fist. Iron Fist got better. That's it.
Yeah, I like the Luke Cage show. It was okay. The Iron Fist was terrible because that kid they cast as Iron Fist. He did not look like he could beat anyone in a fight.
No.
He did not look like a martial arts expert.
Well, he had the physique of every martial artist I know. Like, he can't be too bulky.
Yeah, but he should also look like he could do a push-up. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't want to get into the shows either, but Daredevil was great. Jessica Jones was great. Luke Cage was okay, but Iron Fist is one of the worst TV shows I've ever seen. And I only watched one episode, but it was horrendous.
Yeah, I only lasted one episode too because I just didn't like that guy that they cast as Iron Fist. But anyway, this is back in the heyday of Power Man and Iron Fist, 1980.
That's right.
And they each came from their own series. They each had individual series, and they were kind of like the embodiment of 1970s pop culture because you had Power Man as like the blaxploitation stuff, and you had Iron Fist as kung fu. They were all the rage back then in the 1970s. You know? That's
right.
But unfortunately, their individual titles were not selling well. So instead of canceling them, they just said, hey, let's just stick them together. So they jammed them together in Power Man and Iron Fist. Now, Luke Cage, he started, his comic was originally called Hero for Hire.
That's right.
That was the original name. And it made its debut in 1972. And then the series became Power Man with issue 17. And then with issue 50, it became Power Man and Iron Fist, and they just brought in Iron Fist.
Right.
I think Iron Fist popped up in like issue 47, maybe. They had an arc, and then it became a regular thing in issue 50 when they joined forces officially. And that was back when Chris Claremont was writing it.
And you're right, and John Byrne was drawing it, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Power Man was created by Archie Goodwin, George Tuska, I believe.
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
Roy Thomas and John Romita Sr. Took 4 men to create Luke Cage.
And inked by evangelical phenom Billy Graham.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Hey, Billy Graham, Mike-El, in the coming weeks, I'll also be picking a Black Panther issue.
Okay.
And Billy Graham used to draw Black Panther.
That's right. I think I knew that. Billy Graham also had a career as a professional wrestler, I believe, right?
I did not know that.
No, he was a different Billy Graham.
Oh yeah, that was superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
He was an actor and playwright.
So, all right, so that's your Luke Cage background. Iron Fist, his real name is Danny Rand.
Mm-hmm.
And his first appearance was in Marvel Premiere 15 from 1974. And he was created by Roy Thomas.
There you go.
Gil Kane, who I love.
Who?
Gil Kane.
I thought you said something else. Anyway, yeah, Gil Kane's great. Yeah.
And the duo officially became they joined forces in issue 50. By issue 54, they started their business together, Heroes for Hire.
Mm-hmm.
Play off the original Luke Cage name.
There you go.
So, and of course, for those who don't know Iron Fist, Mike-El, would you like to explain his backstory?
You know what's hilarious? I don't really know it because I
What?
don't think I've ever read an Iron Fist comic in my life.
Well, let me tell you, he was a fictional superhero. He was a practitioner of martial arts and the wielder of a mystical force known as the Iron Fist, which allowed him to summon and focus his chi so his physique doesn't need to look like it should do a push up when the power comes from within.
Exactly, Mike-DELL.
Oh, I see. All right. But yeah, Iron Fist, it's kind of like his backstory. It's a little like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because he's a rich kid and his dad owns a big corporation and he goes with his parents. Apparently his dad was born in another dimension.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I never knew that.
In Kunlun.
Yeah, whatever that's called. Basically, the Iron Fist backstory, if for you literature buffs out there, it's a play off Lost Horizon by James Hilton, Shangri-La, the mystical land of Shangri-La, up in Tibet. It's this mystical city. So he goes there to visit with his parents because apparently his dad was born there or something. I didn't realize this at first. I just found this out. I thought his dad was just a normal dude, but no, apparently he was born there. I don't know. They probably retconned it and changed it. I don't know. Anyway, so while they're there on their trip to Tibet, they have a little accident where they fall off a bridge in these mountains, and while the mom and Danny Rand land on a little ledge and they're safe, their dad is hanging by the edge, and his business partner who went on the trip with him kicks him off and kills him. Because he wants to take over.
Style.
Yeah, he wants to take over the corporation. And then Danny Rand's mom dies because she gets devoured by a pack of wolves while she saves the child. And the child gets taken in by these Tibetan monks from this mystical city, and they teach him the ways of the martial arts and the kung fu.
That's great.
He becomes a master, and then he becomes the Iron Fist because he fights this big giant like dragon. And he beats the dragon, and he gets the power of the Iron Fist. And
sounds good to me.
And he gets branded on his chest with that tattoo. Did you ever see that like dragon tattoo on his chest?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Boom! That becomes branded on him because he's the Iron Fist. And this is like a long tradition. There's like multiple Iron Fists throughout history, I guess. But he's like, the guy now. So then he goes back to the U.S. and he tries to win back his family's corporation from that evil guy that killed his dad. And that's basically the premise of Iron Fist.
So that's pretty much the show. So I didn't realize how accurate the show was then.
Yep, that's what it was.
Interesting.
Hey, Jolie, would you happen to know the secret history of Luke Cage? Would you like to explain that to us?
Would I like to explain it or read it directly from Wikipedia?
Well, I assumed you just knew all this because when you gave the Iron Fist backstory, that sounded like you were just pulling it right out of your head.
Oh, well, I'll pull this right out of my head, too. Carl Lucas is his name. Raised in Harlem, the streets of New York. Wow, that's a lot of text.
Yeah, I've read a handful of issues. The only thing I know is that he was in jail, I believe, right? I think he was wrongly accused.
Yes, he was wrongly accused by his buddies. They were like in a street gang together, and then his one buddy, who I believe, I can't remember his name, was it
Stryker?
Sure, that sounds right. But doesn't he have like another name too, like a villain? Is it Cottonmouth? Is that what it is?
Right. He becomes Cottonmouth, just like in the show, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So anyway, his buddy framed Luke to get arrested because then the buddy took Luke's girlfriend while he was in prison. So, but while Luke was in prison, he wanted to get out, and so that to get back his revenge at his buddy. So they said, "Hey, Luke, we got an idea for you. If you become a subject in this experimental procedure, maybe we'll reduce your sentence." So he goes in to do this procedure. Things go haywire because the warden the one guard in the prison, he's at Seagate Prison, by the way, Seagate Prison. The one guard monkeys with the experiment because he hates Luke Cage. But so the experiment actually ends up giving him super strength and skin that is like steel. You can't hurt Luke Cage.
Right.
So then he gets out of prison and he starts Hero for Hire because he needs to make money. So he's like, I might as well cash in on this superhero stuff I can do. And he becomes a superhero. So that's Luke Cage. And by the way, Mike-El, thanks to Luke Cage, we have Nick Cage. You know?
Yes, that's true. Nicolas Cage. Yeah, his real name is Nicholas Coppola.
Yep.
And he renamed himself Cage after Luke Cage. That's correct.
So how about that? So here we are, 1980, issue 61. The title of it, Who's Been Sleeping in My Grave?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Well, do you want to talk about the cover quick? Because the cover is drawn by Bob Layton, who we've interviewed, and he's really cool.
Yeah, Bob Layton, probably most famous for Iron Man, right?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
And he also did a couple issues of Secret Wars that we just talked about.
Did he? He must have just inked them, right?
No, he drew 2 issues because Mike couldn't keep up with the demands. I think Layton did issues 4 and 5, I believe.
I thought that was Bob McLeod.
No. I don't know who Bob McLeod is. This is Bob Layton. Yeah.
Okay. You say so.
Oh, I know so.
That's true. You know what? Bob Layton was buddies with Jim Shooter, so you're right. It probably was Bob Layton. But anyway.
Yeah, I know it was Bob Layton.
Okay, whatever.
So, on the cover, we got Luke Cage and Iron Fist back to back. Look like they're squaring off against the world. The Iron Fist is glowing, and in the background we see some of them each fighting. We see Luke Cage fighting somebody, and Iron Man fighting somebody, and then in the bottom right corner we see Caesar Cicero.
Right.
Do you know who that is, Mike-El?
No clue. Do you?
Yeah, he's the lead attorney of the Maggia crime family. Right,
which is Marvel's version of the Mafia.
Yes, basically the Godfather. Because again, this is 1980. The Godfather movies are all the rage. So they said, hey, let's Maggia. And do you know who the leader of the Maggia is?
I mean, I thought there was different families, right?
Yeah, there are, but like the main guy who started it all was Silvermane.
Okay, I was gonna say Silvermane, yeah.
Yeah, the old Spider-Man guy, Silvermane.
And of course, when I was a little kid in the 80s, I thought that Marvel came up with this whole concept of the Maggia. I didn't know what the Mafia was. Like, wow, what a cool idea. Anyway.
Mike-El, would you like to, there's also a big little like explosive blurb on the cover at the bottom. Would you like to read that?
Sure. It says the Maggia has declared open season on Power Man and Iron Fist, and now the heroes for hire are dead on target.
Yeah, because there's a big target behind them as well.
Right.
Yeah, so there you go. All right, Mike-El. So the big splash page, we're at Rest Haven Cemetery.
Right. We have
what's going on here?
So basically, we've got some really cool narration introducing the whole idea that this is a cemetery and people get buried in cemeteries, but then it points out usually they don't take place at night. So then when we cut to a closer shot, we realize there's a bunch of dudes who are burying a coffin kind of under, in secrecy. And then when they drop the dirt on the coffin, we see the name Luke Cage inscribed on it, right?
Yeah.
So this is a great little opening because you're like, what in heck what's going on here? Our co-lead is dead, right?
Yeah, and the guy that buries him, he's dropping the dirt on the coffin and he says, "So rest in peace, sucker."
That's right. Sucker.
So it's very 1980s.
Yep. So then we cut to the splash page, and like you said, it's called "Who's Been Sleeping in My Grave?" And I think that's a play on "Who's Been Sleeping in My Bed." Isn't that
the Goldilocks?
Right, Goldilocks.
Three Little Bears.
Yeah, Three Little Bears, whatever. So basically, okay, so Luke Cage is in his office, Heroes for Hire office.
He's not technically he's not in the Heroes for Hire office because it's a big deal now. They got this guy, in the Netflix series, Carrie Ann Moss plays Hogarth.
Okay.
Well, in the comic books, Hogarth is a man, and he's like their manager, their business manager.
Okay.
So he set up a real fancy office with the secretary and everything. Luke Cage is actually in his old office when he was just Hero for Hire.
Okay.
And this office is above a movie theater.
Right.
The Gem movie theater. So that's where he's at this exact moment.
Okay. So he's on the phone, and you find out later he's on the phone with Iron Fist, right?
Yes.
But in this opening scene, this dude comes crashing through the door. Cage, Luke Cage, I need you. And then he collapses. And then
my favorite part of doing this podcast, Jolie, is Mike-El's dramatic readings.
Well, I have to sell it, right? I want people to read these comics, right? So I'm doing my thing here. So then Iron Fist is like, "Are you all right? What's going on?" And so Luke Cage is trying to figure out what's going on with this guy, but this is his buddy. I guess his name is Donovan. I don't know anything about these characters, but
Yeah, this is Big Ben Donovan. They started out as enemies because,
okay.
in fact, Big Ben's first appearance. I should mention I read all the Luke Cage stuff early on. The
Are you
early
serious?
Yeah,
Like, when you were
I
kicking
actually
me?
enjoy it. I enjoy
Okay.
it quite a bit. At least the real early stuff's actually really good. The first couple.
Okay.
But Big Ben, they were rivals. They met in Big Ben's first scene in the comic book ever. I think he's busting through Luke Cage's door just like this,
Oh,
except he's there to beat him up the first time.
okay.
And because he's jealous that he thought Luke Cage was running around with the lady that he liked, so he was going to beat up Luke Cage. But in this issue, he's coming to Luke Cage for help.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so basically, okay, so this guy is like on death's door, and then as he's trying to get a message through to Luke, he's like, "Hoods from the Magia, after me now. May not be much time." And then the little narration box, indeed, for suddenly, in the very doorway to Cage's office, these two guys burst in with looks like Tommy guns, and they start shooting at them, right? And then Iron Fist can obviously hear this over the phone, and we know because there's the sound effect, Bud, what is this? Bud, click, Luke. So he hangs up, and now he's got to run to go, save the day. So cutting back to this office, so Luke is getting shot at, but of course he's got steel hard skin, and so the bullets can't penetrate his skin. And so he, grabs the guys, punches them out, knocks them out, and then now he's got his. Oh, look at this! They even flash back to issue 14 when, just like you said, Donovan burst through the window. It's the first time they ever met him, right?
Yeah, through the door. Yeah, he goes
through the door. Yeah, through the door. And so anyway, so Luke Cage picks up Donovan, and then he flashes back to the first time he met him. So they kind of explain what's going on, and then he puts him on the couch, and then he turns around, and there's another guy in the office now. This guy is what is his name?
Man Mountain Marco.
That's right, Man.
He's originally a Spider-Man villain. His first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man 73.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And his background is interesting because he was a street punk who was in a gang, and he wanted to. They were picking on Peter Parker. Like they saw him walking home one day, and they're like, "Oh, look at that nerd! Let's go beat up Peter Parker." And but Peter at the time was worried about Aunt May because he's always worried about Aunt May. So he was lost in his thoughts. And when the young Man Mountain Marco came over to bully him, Peter just swatted him away with a little backhand, and the strength of Spider-Man sent him flying. So Marco he's like, wow, a little nerd like that can knock me over. I better get my act together. And so he decided to join the mob. I'm not going to let someone push me around. And then when he joined the Magia, they did a secret experiment on him. They genetically modified him to give him superhuman strength.
Isn't that convenient?
Yeah, so he became like the chief lieutenant of Silvermane, like his muscle.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool backstory.
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, so they get into this fist fight, and Luke Cage kind of knocks him out, I guess. And then we cut away. We see this other guy who's watching through binoculars.
Wait. Luke Cage does not knock out Man Mountain Marco.
Oh, he doesn't knock him out. He knocks him over, but he's not knocked out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an important detail.
Yes.
So then we cut away to this guy watching on a rooftop through binoculars, but we don't know who it is yet, right? This shadowy figure. And so then we cut to Iron Fist in the backseat of a cab. He's rushing over to get to Luke Cage's office. And then this is, as far as dialogue, this is one of my least favorite scenes in the book, where the cab driver is kind of blabbing, and then he turns around and he's like, "Hey, aren't you gone?" And then we see a picture of like an overcoat and some money, but then the guy has to explain it. All he left me was the fare, a tip, and his overcoat? A nice looking kid like that? Jeez. I don't know why he had to comment on his looks, but
yeah, that is weird.
Objectifying, but
let's just pretend that panel doesn't exist.
Yeah, okay. So then we cut back, and as Mike-DELL said, Man Mountain Marco is not knocked out. He was just knocked over. So now he's running back to Power Man. And they're going to continue this fist fight for, let's see how many more panels. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 5th panel of the next page, the guy reaches it. He smashes through the drywall and grabs some electrical cables and then uses them to electrocute Power Man, right?
Yep.
And the Power Man kind of struggles for a minute, but then he just ends up falling over.
Well, because he cracks him on the back of the head.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He actually gave him an additional punch on the back of the head. You're right.
And it breaks his hand. That's how tough he is. But
Yeah.
you notice Man Mountain Marco, I think he's basically just a really big Johnny Cash. He looks exactly like Johnny Cash, except here he's wearing all white. Like not
there you go. The man in white instead of the man in black.
Yeah, he just looks like a big angry Johnny Cash. Yep.
Interesting. Yep. So Power Man is obviously knocked out. So then we cut back to the guy on the roof, and we see that this is a guy who I've never seen in a story before, but I've seen him, I think, in like the Marvel Universe Handbook. But this is
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt. So is this guy dressed in a supervillain costume? It's a
it's a superhero costume.
Oh, he's a superhero. Okay. Yeah. So it's like blue with kind of like a lightning designed, kind of over shirt thing with like a what are those called? Shoulder. What are those called? They kind of stick up. I don't know what they're.
Shoulder pads.
Yeah, kind of like shoulder pads. Stick up a little bit.
It looks like an oversized dickie or a balaclava.
Yeah, there you go.
Oversized dickie. That's what I like. There you go.
So I guess this guy can run fast, right? So he runs down this fire escape, and then he runs into Iron Fist. And Iron Fist is like, "Hey, where did you come from? I'm sorry, Iron Fist, but I can't allow you to go in there. Don't try to stop me." So then they kind of get into a little fight, and Thunderbolt is punching Iron Fist. Iron Fist elbows him, kicks him, and then they basically settle down. Now there's a crowd gathered around them, and so then they realize, of course, as in every Marvel comic, it was just a misunderstanding, right?
Yeah.
So Thunderbolt, you can actually see him brushing the dirt off of his arm. You can see like a little cloud of smoke coming off, right?
Yep.
So then they kind of talk, and I don't remember what they say here. What do they realize? Oh, the magic stuff.
They're both Iron Man recognizes the name Thunderbolt because some kids are watching him fight. He says, Iron Fist is really giving it to Thunderbolt. And he goes, Thunderbolt? And Luke Cage has mentioned Thunderbolt, that he's a good guy, and he's helped Luke in the past. So he's like, oh, I didn't mean to be fighting you. And he says, hey, I can't let you go in there because I should mention Thunderbolt. His real name is William Carver.
Right.
Okay, and he was a district attorney, like an assistant DA under Foggy Nelson, actually.
Oh, okay.
His first appearance was in Daredevil, where was it here? Daredevil 69 from 1970.
Okay.
And then his first appearance with Power Man was Power Man 41 in 1977. But he was the assistant DA under Foggy Nelson, and he was trying to take down a street gang called the Thunderbolts.
Oh, right.
And his little brother named Lonnie was murdered by somebody.
Okay.
A sniper shot him. And so at the funeral for his younger brother, he noticed, he saw the guy that killed his brother, and he went after him because the guy was there, I guess, to maybe kill William Carver, the brother. So they had a big fight, and while they're fighting, they get struck by lightning.
Awesome.
The assassin dies. William Carver survives, but he's in such dire straits. They have to do an experimental procedure using a cobalt ray created by Stark Industries.
That's right.
Tony Stark. And as a side effect, he gets superhuman speed.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like the Flash of Harlem. Yeah, he's basically Harlem's Flash. So he becomes a superhero, and that's the history of Thunderbolt, William Carver. Yeah. So.
Yeah, for some reason I always thought he was a bad guy. I don't know why, but anyway, he's not. He's a superhero.
Yeah.
And so they they're kind of chatting here, and now we kind of, I guess we're almost looped back around to the beginning because now we find out why Luke Cage was in this coffin, right?
Yeah, and I should mention the reason Thunderbolt, he's watching them is because he believes whoever killed his brother, Lonnie, is involved with the Magia and Big Ben Donovan. Because Big Ben Donovan was a lawyer in Harlem, but he's into some shady stuff now. All right? He's doing some bad stuff. So Thunderbolt is watching him because he thinks he can lead him to the guy who killed his brother, but now he's concerned that Luke Cage is involved in this somehow. So he's concerned, is Luke bad? What's going on here? Why is Donovan and the Magia converging on Luke Cage? So he doesn't want Iron Fist to go in there and stop him. He wants to see where they go, trail them back to their hideout. You understand? So
yeah, okay. So then, so basically, Luke Cage is in the coffin, and now we're introduced to Caesar. Yeah, this is his first appearance in the book, right? Caesar Cicero.
Caesar Cicero.
Yep. And then they're chatting back and forth, and then we jump back to Iron Fist and Thunderbolt, where are they here? They're in
Well, they're going to the DA's office because
right.
Carver's still like, you know, an assistant DA and with the officials, but they don't know he's Thunderbolt. But they sneak in the back door, and the one guy in the office, he's actually meeting with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing.
Who are members of they're the kind of members of Heroes for Hire, right?
They're at this point they're not members, but they own their own private eye investigative Nightwing Restorations.
Oh, right.
And at this point in time, since Luke Cage and Iron Fist just became Heroes for Hire, they're actually kind of bitter towards them because, hey, you're still in our business. People are going to you now instead of us. So yeah.
Okay.
And we should mention Misty Knight and Iron Fist used to be lovers.
That's right.
And Misty Knight also used to be Jean Grey's roommate.
Oh, that's right, because they were both written by Chris Claremont, right?
Yep.
That's how I was able to keep track of that.
A lot of connections here, and of course they both appeared in the Netflix shows. Although it is weird because Colleen Wing, the way she's depicted here, she looks like a white lady, right? I mean, she doesn't look very Asian, but
she's supposed to be Asian?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I thought it was just wing, like like a bird's wing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, she was born in I forget exactly where she was born, but she was raised and her grandfather taught her the ways of the samurai, and then she came to New York. And Misty Knight saved her from a gangland shootout, and they became best buddies. And that's how they became friends. And of course, Misty Knight was a police officer who stopped a bank robbery with a bomb, but the bomb went off and ripped off her right arm. So she had to she retired from the police force. But Tony Stark, the good guy that he is, he read about her heroism in the newspaper, so he designed her a bionic arm. That Tony Stark.
Awesome.
Yeah. So she has a bionic right arm.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Wow, you didn't know that?
No, I don't know much about these characters. I never really read any of their comics, so.
That's a shame. All right.
So wait. So Misty Knight has a bionic arm.
Yes.
But it's not. But it's like obviously skin color over top of the robotics. It's not like it's metal showing through, right?
Well, it used to be. Yeah, it looks like she has a normal hand here.
Okay.
But yeah, sometimes it was depicted as a bionic arm, but I guess they made it look like a real arm. I don't know. But,
okay.
Her Misty Knight's first appearance was Marvel Team Up #1 in 1972.
Really?
Yeah. And then she was in Marvel Premiere 21 1975. She was unnamed in that first appearance, and then she became in 1975. They actually named her. And Colleen Wing's first appearance was Marvel Premiere 1974. How about that?
Interesting. I mean, it's cool that these characters are not typical. Like they don't have costumes, they don't have names, right? But they kind of hang out and with the Heroes for Hire. And I do. This is all fascinating to me again because, like I said, like. I had never really read Power Man or Iron Fist, and I hadn't really read any Ghost Rider or any 70s comics until only in the last 5 or 10 years. So it's kind of like a whole other world to me,
Yeah.
So.
And what a world it is.
Yeah. And so basically, so they're kind of just, they're not really tied to, like, Iron Fist touches base with them. And,
yeah, they go to Carver's office because they got to get some info on the Magia and whatnot, and they got to track down where Luke Cage is, and he fills in Iron Fist on his backstory and explains how he got his powers and everything. Right. But Mike-El, there's a big reveal at the end of the issue, the final 2 panels. What happens?
Yes, you find out that Thunderbolt is aging very quickly, and he's now an old man. But I've never seen it before, so that doesn't really mean anything to me,
Yeah, but it's still alarming that this superhero is running around all fast. He takes his mask off, and he's a very old man.
Right.
And he says, because he should only be like 32 years old or something.
Oh, he's just 28, yeah.
Oh, 28, all right. So, well, that's pretty impressive. He's assistant DA at 28. Well done, William Carver. That's impressive. But he says that the experiment that gave him the super speed, it also accelerated his metabolism, and he's aging so fast. So he has only like maybe days, hours to live, and he's obsessed with finding the killer of his brother.
That's right.
So, and then that's where the issue ends.
I got to say one thing before we say anything else is that I felt like I was just getting into the story
Yep.
when it ended.
Yep.
Really abruptly. So that's one credit I'll give this issue.
Yeah, it's good. It's a little cliffhanger, pulls you
Right.
through. I did go on to read some more of these issues.
Really?
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So how much of this? I mean, how long is the series? Like 152 issues or something?
Oh, I don't even know.
It's a lot. It's like around that. But how many of them have you read? Would you say?
Well, I just picked this one at random.
Ah,
so
gotcha.
I read this one, and then I read the next one, and then I read the one after that.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, do you want to talk about the creators?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The writer here is Joe Duffy,
but
that's Joe J-O. It's a lady.
You got it.
Mary Jo Duffy. She was born in New York City in 1954. She was a comics fan as a kid, and she actually appeared in many letters columns. She wrote a lot of letters to the comics.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
I always like when I hear that. Like these kids grow up to be comics writers. Then that's great. She graduated from Wesley College. She studied English, and she started as an assistant editor at Marvel in 1977. She actually appeared as an autograph seeker in Iron Man 103 in 1977. They drew her
Really?
in. Yeah, how about that?
That's pretty cool.
Her first writing gig at Marvel was Star Wars, issue 24.
See, I knew she wrote for Star Wars. That's why I'm familiar with her.
And that was in 1977, but she went on to do 32 issues total. Cool. She took over as the regular writer with issue 70, and she stayed until the end of the series at 107.
Nice.
So, you Star Wars fans out there, Mary Jo Duffy. She began Power Man and Iron Fist. She took over with issue 56, and she ran until issue 84, so a 3-year run. She took over for Chris Claremont because he was just too busy. He had too much on his plate. And so she went to Jim Shooter because she was an assistant editor at the time. And a lot of times they would let them write stuff. And she goes, hey, I'd really like to get into writing. Is there anything I could do? And she talked to Chris Claremont, and he's really busy and he could give up one of the titles that he was doing. So Shooter said, all right, yeah, you can do whatever one he doesn't want to do. Whatever he wants to give up, you can do. And at the time, Claremont was writing Miss Marvel and Power Man and Iron Fist. So Jim Shooter, thinking that Claremont would give up Miss Marvel and he'd give Miss Marvel to Joe Duffy. But no, Claremont wanted to keep Miss Marvel, and he gave up Power Man and Iron Fist. But Joe Duffy was excited because she actually loved these characters.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Huh. But I think Shooter just thought, oh, well, the girl will do the girl comic,
Sure.
But so she took over Power Man and Iron Fist, and she brought a lighthearted tone to the series. She kind of made it like a buddy cop movie. She focused on their relationship and not so much. Well, there are a lot of fights in this issue, which I loved. Apparently, over the length of her run, she downplayed the fighting and focused more on their relationship. She was also a big fan of Stan Lee, and he had a major influence on her. And you can see that in the way she handles the supporting characters because they have a large supporting cast, and they all have fleshed out motivations and problems. Like we mentioned, Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. Now they're bitter at Iron Fist and Power Man for stealing their business. You got all that side stuff going on. So yeah, she created a big supporting cast for Power Man and Luke Cage. Ironically enough, though, Mike-El, she was taken off the book after 3 years because editorial thought it was too lighthearted.
Really?
They're like, hey, we don't like what you're doing with this. But fans of Power Man and Iron Fist consider her 3-year run the height of the series.
Really?
They said this was when Power Man and Iron Fist was at their best, was when Mary Jo Duffy was writing it.
And who replaced her as the writer? Do you know?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
I don't even. I want to say Roy Thomas actually at some point took over. I think he did write some of them. I don't know if he was right after her. So in 1980, she wrote Francis, Brother of the Universe, #1, the Marvel biography of Francis of Assisi.
That's right. That's right.
How about that? That was drawn by John Buscema. And then in 1987, she did the Fallen Angels story, the limited series, 8-issue limited series. Do you remember Fallen Angels?
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes, absolutely. New Mutants spinoff, kind of, right?
Yes, Warlock and Sunspot leave the New Mutants for a while because Sunspot injures Cannonball in a friendly game of soccer.
Right.
And everyone's mad at him, so he and Warlock go have adventures on their own. Then in 1993-94, she did Catwoman 1-14 for DC.
Okay.
Catwoman came back. But those are pretty much all her prominent stuff. But she's done other things. She apparently is no longer in comics at this point in her career, but
now that happens a lot, unfortunately, with these old 70s and 80s creators.
But yeah,
Take them to
Power
the
Man
curb.
and Iron Fist is probably the height of her career, her best
Okay.
work. So yeah,
Not Star Wars?
no, I don't think.
Okay.
Power Man and Iron Fist. At least it was her favorite thing, I guess I should say
Okay.
she did. But most people consider it the height of her career. I was a fan of this. I like this issue a lot. You did point out the one terrible panel there with the cab driver.
Right.
But overall, she does a lot of really good stuff here in terms of the plotting and, again, ending on a hook. The motivations for all the characters, the supporting cast. I really like this. This issue went by quick when you're reading it. It was very well done, I thought. I was impressed.
I'll definitely give it props for being fast moving. And like I said, just when I was kind of wondering what was going to happen next, it ended on a cliffhanger. So that's definitely an extra point. But I think, pardon me, I think what I didn't like about it was I don't know. It's one of those comics where sometimes I can buy all of the conventions of a superhero story, but I felt like in this story, it was just riding the line between absurdity and believability, with
What was
like,
absurd about it?
well, let's see, Thunderbolt, the character himself, the costume,
Oh,
man.
so he's ridiculous, but Flash is awesome.
Oh, I think it's all just the way they're drawn and the way they're written, but there's just something about this that it just pushed the limits of believability for me. It just felt like I don't know. I just can't explain it, but it's like it doesn't quite handle it properly. That's what I felt like anyway.
Yeah. I was big fan. Big fan.
Well, you haven't talked about the artist Kerry
Yeah.
Gamble. I know Kerry Gamble from Superman. What's your take on Kerry Gamble?
Well, he's born in 1954. He grew up a comics fan and idolized the likes of Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Buscema, Gene Colan, and Jim Steranko.
Really? Okay.
I was gonna pick an Agents of Shield with Jim Steranko, Mike-DELL. He only did like 5 issues or so.
Really? Holy moly! Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did some extra covers, but really only like maybe even 4 issues, I think.
Okay, interesting.
But the last one he did was 1969. Can we still do that on this show?
That's a great question. I think we're gonna have to expand our parameters a little bit because I've got a couple comics that are cut into the 90s, so we'll have to talk about that after.
I don't think we should do any 90s comics.
Hey, when you hear the comic that I suggest, I think you're going to change your tune, all right?
But that's a whole different era, 90s comics, That's technically the Bronze Age, I believe, ends in like 85.
Yeah, 85, 86. Technically, you're right. So we're kind of already breaking the rules, I guess. But yeah, we'll talk about that later.
All right. So Kerry Gamble, his first issue ever was Marvel Team Up 73 in 1978. He did a Spider-Man and Daredevil story. And he did 11 total issues of Marvel Team Up between 78 and 83. Power Man and Iron Fist, he did 16 issues. This was the first issue he ever did, 61. And
Really?
And his final issue was in issue 79, and that was between 80 and 82. He also did 4 issues of the Fallen Angel series with Joe Duffy, so they were buddies.
Huh.
1983, he did 4 issues of the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
Did you ever buy the Indiana? Because when I was a kid, I had some of those Indiana Jones, and I had the ones drawn by Kerry Gamble, but I don't know where they are now. I
have 1 or 2 issues drawn by John Byrne, actually.
Yeah. 1988 to 91, he did 13 issues of Superman.
Got that right. Yep.
1988, he did the cover for Power Girl #1.
Okay, I remember that. Yep.
And 1991, he did the Deadly Foes of Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Ooh, that was not a good series. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. And 1992, he did Teen Titans #1.
Okay, that's right. It was like a volume 3 #1. Yeah, I remember that.
That's pretty prominent. And then that's pretty much it for his comic book run. He left comics to be special effects concept artist, character designer, and storyboard artist for TV, movies, and gaming.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
So, but I got to tell you, I loved the art here. I thought this was great.
I don't know. I've always thought Kerry Gamble is kind of just an average. Like, I've never thought he was bad, but he's kind of just typical to me. Like, I can appreciate his art because it has a Bronze Age feel to it, and I like that, but I don't actually think he's a great artist.
Yeah, I think a lot of this was very, very good. Like when the guys bust in the office, look at those panels of Cage getting shot. the composition of that panel, and then busting through and punching the dudes. That's a great panel.
That's probably the best. Yeah, that one shot of him punching while he's getting shot is the best page, or the best panel in the whole book.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. It's not like amazing or anything. They're like the figures do look a little stiff when they're fighting, and but still, I like the composition and the panel layouts and a lot of this stuff. It's very old school comic booky, and
right.
I was a fan.
That's what I like about it. It has this Bronze Age vibe, definitely.
Yeah. So there you go, Kerry Gamble.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike-El, about Kerry Gamble? Did you like his Superman run at all?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely fine. Like, again, it fit in with that style of the day, so I definitely liked it for that reason. But, I mean, of the Superman artists of that day, if I were to bring anything back, it would be Jerry Ordway or John Bogdanove, but not him, you know. Again, maybe for like... Actually, didn't he also do X-Men Forever? Did you mention that?
I don't remember seeing that. I don't even know what X-Men Forever is.
X-Men Forever is a revival of the X-Men that basically pretends, basically it's what would happen if Chris Claremont got to stay on X-Men and do whatever he wanted with it instead of being fired. And so that's what happened. Oh, sorry, you know what? It wasn't Kerry Gamble, it was Tom Grummett. Are you familiar with Tom Grummett?
No, I am not.
Okay, well, he's kind of a similar type artist. He's a very 80s, Bronze Age-ish artist. And so anyway, so X-Men Forever was like, I don't know, it lasted pretty long, almost 100 issues. And basically they let Chris Claremont do whatever he wanted, but it was not in Marvel continuity. It was in this Chris Claremont, continuity. So pretty cool idea, though. Yeah.
Was it better than the normal continuity?
It was definitely enjoyable. I've only read like maybe 10 issues, but it was definitely less confusing. I'll put it that way. It was coherent. We'll leave it at that.
I had no idea that was even a thing. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, definitely look into it. It's cool.
Yeah. All right. That's something.
So
what else, Mike-El? Anything else about the Power Man and Iron Fist?
I can only say I've read a handful of Luke Cage comics, the early ones, and I've never read Iron Fist, but I've been, as you know, doing another podcast called Here Comes the Spider Cast, and we've had a bunch of guest appearances by Power Man and Iron Fist, and we didn't really like any of them. And this was probably the best Power Man and Iron Fist story I've read, but I'm still not sure if I'd be, interested enough to continue to read and then read more, I don't know.
I'm not a huge Iron Fist fan. I just don't like the character. I like Luke Cage a lot. So I tolerate Iron Fist when he's around. He looks cool. I like the Iron Fist power. I like all that stuff. But I don't know, just something. He seems like too much of a ripoff of Batman coming from the rich. I don't like rich people, Mike. We've established this on the show many times.
I'm with you on that.
I don't like the 1%, and he's just the 1%er. So I'm not a fan of him. But I like the street level books. The gritty street level Daredevils. Even your Spider-Man, even though sometimes he can get too highfalutin with his villains, but he's still street level. That's what I like. And this is gritty street level stuff in Harlem, and so I love it. It's just right in my wheelhouse.
Well, we've got our supervisor here, G.I. Jolie, who's also can see the artwork here on the laptop. Do you have anything to say about the art, Jolie? What do you think of it?
It's typical of superhero stories.
Yeah.
It's dynamic. It's
That's exactly
exciting
right,
to look at. There's a lot of action and movement, and this is the first time I can actually say that like the inks are kind of like very noticeably it's inked. Whereas a lot of comics don't take advantage of the fact that comics are a medium that are inked. This, like, look at his white suit. Yeah, it's just there's no fear of black space. Not not to say that this whole issue is black space. Anyway, it's a bad joke. It's a bad joke.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Cancel Jolie.
Me too.
But yeah, Bruce Patterson, he inked George Perez on the early Wonder Woman run issues there. He's definitely a good inker.
Almost sometimes the inking's almost a little overdone in some of these panels, I would say.
Yeah, arguably. You could say that. Arguably.
Yeah, but I do like the dynamic, like Jolie was saying, big sense of, this is like old school Kirby-esque kind of designs.
Yeah, layouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So other than that, I mean, again, kind of in my opinion, a typical, like, I do like Joe Duffy, but I would say this is kind of an average an average Bronze Age comic in my opinion.
But you say like that's a bad thing.
No,
Average.
it's kind of like if I want my daily dosage of Bronze Age comics, I would definitely read this, but I would not like rush out to buy it or to pay, $3.65 for it the way I would for, say, Christmas with the Superheroes,
Yeah, this is very much like setting up the story,
Yes.
And then the next issue is the big payoff.
Okay.
So, there you go.
But
Would you like to? Would you like to a spoiler? Would you like me to spoil the story for you?
Heck, sure, go ahead.
Luke Cage doesn't die.
Ah,
Yeah, he doesn't
right.
die. Actually, the thing they're burying at the beginning of this issue with Luke Cage on his coffin, that's actually Big Ben Donovan. He's been running drugs. He stole a bunch of drugs from the Maggia.
Okay.
That's why they're after Donovan. And he took the drugs and he buried them in that coffin with the Luke Cage headstone to hide them, And so they go, when the Maggia have Luke Cage, they are planning to bury him alive, and they do bury him alive.
Okay.
But he busts out.
Okay.
And he comes right out of the ground.
Really?
And Thunderbolt does catch Big Ben Donovan, and he finds out that he was the guy that actually had his brother killed, because Big Ben had a brother, and William Carver was responsible for sending his brother to prison.
Really?
So he decided, you took my brother away, because his brother died in prison. Then the Maggia killed him in prison because he had nowhere to go. They were able to track him down and kill him. So he's like, you killed my brother, I'm going to kill your brother, William Carver.
Okay.
But he had no idea Thunderbolt was William Carver, So then Carver catches Donovan. They scuffle, and Donovan shoots himself in the scuffle, but he just shoots his wrist, so he doesn't die.
Okay.
It's reported in some news outlets, Mike-DELL, that Donovan died. He did not die.
Gotcha.
So that's fake news. But Thunderbolt does die.
Oh, really?
Because now that he's at least identified his brother's killer is going to go to justice. Power Man and Iron Fist will make sure he's arrested. His life's work is done, and he runs out of energy. His body gives away, and he dies. And he collapses on his brother's grave.
Whoa.
Yeah. How about that?
That's so poetic, right?
Yep. So there you go. There's the big ending. Power Man and Iron Fist. 1 out of 10, Mike-DELL.
Ooh, I think I'll have to give it a 5. Because as I said, it's a very standard Bronze Age comic, and it's nothing bad about it, but I don't think there's anything that would make me want to come back for more.
Huh. Yeah, Christmas with the Superheroes is 8 out of 10.
Yep, sure is.
I'm giving it a 7.
Okay.
I think it's really solid. Just good stuff all around. There's a lot of fights. There's 2 fights. Man Mountain Marco and Luke Cage going at it. I enjoyed that a great deal. Thunderbolt and Iron Fist are scrapping it up a little bit. That was fun. And then Thunderbolt's an old man. He takes his mask off, and he's an old man.
Uh-huh.
Shocking.
Okay.
7 out of 10. Jolie, I know you didn't read it, but just say 10 out of 10.
What? No. I will not be led. Those inks were 10s.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There you go. So Power Man and Iron Fist 61. Mike-DELL. Next week, what are you picking?
Well, this is kind of dependent on if you can get one of our previous guests to come back.
Oh, well, I don't know if he'll be here, but if you want to pick it, just go ahead and pick it.
Okay, fine. I pre-warned you that I was going to pick this because I want to compare this to our Secret Wars #1 story that we read. I'm going to pick Crisis on Infinite Earths, not #1, but #3.
Okay. I know nothing about this. Well, I have a general concept of it. Like you said, they reboot everything, right? Like they kind of
at the end they do. Yes.
How many issues was this? Like it was a limited
12.
series.
Yeah.
12 issue limited series.
Just like Secret Wars. Yep.
Was that intentional, just to make it like Secret Wars?
I don't think so. No, I think it was just a coincidence.
And unlike Secret Wars, this had no tie-ins to a toy line, right?
No tie-in. Nope.
All right. So It'll be better then, probably.
I think so. Yeah, this is Marv Wolfman, George Perez, and Dick Giordano. So.
Oh yeah, I like the Dick Giordano from Dead Man.
I also must point out that when I first read Crisis, I actually started with number 3, and that's kind of one of the reasons I want to read this one and not number 1.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, it'll be even more confusing. Anyway.
Now, so do all the heroes come together to fight a big fight, or what's the premise?
I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just say that when the story starts out, there in DC. There's more than one universe. There's multiple universes, infinite actually, and they're all being slowly destroyed by this antimatter wave. And then basically we got to find out why this is happening, who's causing it, how they can stop it, and then who they're going to use, to fight this threat. And it just goes from there.
If only that antimatter wave would have struck before Christmas with the superheroes.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So
trust me, you'll see why. You'll see how it all fits together.
We would have had Bizarro, Gigolo, Superman.
I can warm you up. Jolie, thanks so much for joining us, Jolie. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Please.
You got to come back on the LCS show.
I do, but I hear I'm about to talk about Big Brother. I can't. It'll just.
All right, fair enough. But we'll get you back on. Just let me know whenever you want to do it. We'll get you back on. All right, Mike-El, thank you.
Absolutely. I guess that wraps up this week's episode of Flea Market Fantasy. Each week we pick a random a random pick by one of us from the Bronze Age of comics. We'll actually talk about that maybe next episode of what defines the Bronze Age, because definitions change depending on who you're talking to. But yes, so this has been Flea Market Fantasy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.